Hello, everybody, and welcome to Season 1, Episode 8 of The Horizontal. The roles are a little bit reversed today. This is Niko Choi, and I will be hosting The Horizontal today. And sitting next to me is the host of The Horizontal, the commissioner of Judice's League, Mike Judice. Mike, how does it feel to be in the other seat today?
You know, after doing first 7 episodes in your role now, it's great to be on this side. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, no, I think this should be a pretty interesting podcast. I plan on kind of going over a lot of your time being commissioner and kind of in the past, kind of what to expect going forward, and kind of getting into a lot of the decisions you've made as the commissioner of this very important league.
Sweet. Let's do it.
All right, so I guess just to start off, I'd like to talk a little bit about the success of the podcast in general. I feel like this is an idea that kind of really got rolling and something that ended up working out a lot better than I actually thought it might have ended up working out.
Yeah, I was a little surprised that everyone was on board with it. Um, though it seems like everyone in this league has a common interest of doing ideas like this in the fantasy league, where there's offline draft, podcast, and so on. This idea was inspired by Josh, and we kind of just put it to work. He started off the first episode, and then everyone was excited to do their own episode. And
Right. I feel like a lot of people were really into it, and everyone was really excited for it to be their turn. And everyone had quite a bit to say. A lot of the podcast lasted a lot longer than I thought they were going to, too. An hour and 10 is a long time, and I think a lot of people were really looking forward to getting their thoughts out.
yeah, I didn't. I expected it to be 52 an hour, but then the more I did it, people had things to say, and I was interested in them. So an extra 10 minutes really helped, especially getting the topics in sports world. That was kind of the last 10 minutes where it really.
Right. And I think everyone can agree that you've done a very good job as the host, and I think the podcast has overall gone pretty well. So I'm pretty excited. I'm happy that we're here today, and I'm looking forward to kind of digging in a little bit deeper with you today.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess just to start off, tell me a little bit about what the life is like being the commissioner, and we'll just start off there.
Oh, it's great. It's fun because you are in literally the center of everything. Um, Anyone that has something to say, it goes to you. Any discussion, you have to be right in the middle of it. I see all the trades first because it has to go through me. Um, I mean, I don't really get an advantage with the points wise because it's out there for months, but I kind of
Right.
get to mess with it a little bit, and then I kind of get to have my own ideas and then throw them out there, and then if the idea is okay, but it can be improved on, then someone improves on it, and then we vote on it. So
Hmm.
I'm just in the center of everything, which is the unique, fun part of it.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool to be the person who is in control and kind of pulls a lot of the strings behind the league. And I think you're doing a overall really good job with it through the years. So, can you tell me a little bit about how you think your role has changed over the years, or just some of the experiences that you've had from the beginning to now, and just kind of how the whole landscape of the league has kind of changed over the years?
Well, I feel like not too much has changed. Um, though actually, one thing that has changed is that this is more like team oriented league rather than just me making the rules because I would used to ask what changes I wanted to make in the league, and I would get some feedback, but I wouldn't get too much. And it was like, okay, whenever the draft is ready, we just do it. This year, the draft is talked about almost every single day, and then there's new proposals and ideas to make the draft fun from everyone else, and that's what I like this a lot better because I was kind of just told just do whatever looks right, and then the day before it's like, yeah, this is fine, and then someone would criticize it at the end of end of the year. We're not gonna have that this year, so
Right. I feel like there wasn't as much communication, I guess, before with some of the participants of the league about kind of how they wanted things to be run, and then relaying that information back to you to make sure you were satisfying everybody.
yeah, it's more of a big deal now. So before it wasn't really, but only for a few of us, but now everyone's really into it. So that's why you're gonna see better ideas.
Right. Um, and I guess now that you're just a more experienced commissioner, do you just kind of feel more comfortable with some of the things as opposed to earlier in your career as a commissioner?
Well, scoring was a big thing because I had trouble identifying what I really wanted to do for scoring because I started off with bonuses. I think I've always been PPR in like two quarterbacks, so that stayed. But I've always had trouble getting like quarterback and defense. Yeah, quarterback and defense was always my thing I was trying to screw with. But finally got something for quarterback. I kind of got like a standard good game. And then
Mhm.
defense, there's no more defensive players, and just team defense is like, I kind of just altered it. So it's not a big deal.
Right, and you've changed some of the scoring over the years and some of the values of points. Do you feel like you've figured out a formula that you're happy with and comfortable with, and you're really satisfied with the way the scoring works in the league now, or do you think you still want to tamper with some of the point values?
For now, at least for the couple years, I'm kind of going with the NFL, so more passing now. So my scoring's basically passing friendly with the PPR. So this is gonna stay, especially two quarterbacks. I like that. Um, Not many leagues have that. So at least for maybe 2 3 years, it's gonna stay the same, and then we'll see how the NFL landscapes. Maybe I'll change it again. If anything, I would change is probably maybe just team defense. That's the only thing I could see myself changing.
Now, I feel like quarterback's a position that's changed a little bit over our course in this league. There was a point in time where I feel like quarterbacks were scoring more in like the 40s and 50s in points, if I'm right, and they score a little bit less now. Can you just tell me a little bit about the decision making process with changing some of the quarterback scoring up over the last couple of years?
Yeah, quarterback was too dominant. What was the turning point? So I was like, I think a quarterback got like 80 points, and I was like, this can't happen.
One time I had Tom Brady who scored like 90 points in the game against the Titans. That was a long time ago.
Oh yeah, 59-0.
Um,
Yeah,
but
I can't have that. A 50 would have been fine. Um, Especially if it was one quarterback, maybe that's fine to have scoring like that. But two quarterbacks, so if you have like two good games, like I could have two quarterbacks getting 120 points, so I can't have that. Especially with the receivers and I mean, it did help that there was the 40-yard bonuses and touchdowns with the
mhm.
receivers and running backs. Still, I think quarterbacks were just a little too dominant, and then the score was like very, very inflated, and so like a bad quarterback game kind of really just killed the rest of your team. And now it's more balanced. So if your quarterback has a bad game, you can still win.
Right. And now you mentioned the bonuses that we used to have. That was something I think we got rid of just last year. Am I right?
Might be gone for 2 years now.
Okay. And can you maybe just talk a little bit about why you decided to get rid of that? And I guess maybe why you added it in the first place? Because I think that's something that only lasted in our league for about 1 to 2 years,
Yeah,
if I'm
a
right.
couple years at most. The reason I got rid of it is because I will use this example. Deshaun Jackson, Chris Johnson would be our guys are really fast and they're gonna make or break your game sometimes. They'll get like two catches for 80 yards and then score. Um, Sean Jackson guys like him would just absolutely break out on a game where maybe they would score more than someone who catch like 8 balls and 100 yards. And I kind of looked at it. I was like, well, I mean, yeah, they did have a really good play, and that's very valuable to the team. But didn't see it as valuable anymore. I didn't like the incentivized bonuses. I kind
Right.
of just want to go with a strict scoring where, I mean, if you score, no matter how far you are out from. So I decided to get rid of it.
And now is that something that you added to kind of just give it a try and see what that looks
Yeah,
like, or?
yeah, that was just take a shot. That was a little while ago, so I can't really remember too much. I was kind of still exploring with I liked a lot of points before. That was the
Right.
main
Yeah, I
idea.
think right, exactly. We had a pretty high scoring league compared to some of the others that at least I've participated in, and I think you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think still, I know Nick's league is structured a lot differently, where his scoring is like less than 100 points a week. Am I right about
It's
that?
half of our points. So basically, yeah, it's like maybe a little more than half. If they're a good week, there'd be like 70 or 80, and a good week in our league is like 170 or 180. So yeah, it's a little more than half.
And now, I mean, I guess
But his is on the low side. Let me be clear with that. A standard league would probably be like 100 points. An average league.
right. That makes sense. Now, I guess another kind of big difference between his league and your league is the three different divisions, and kind of just the way the schedule works and how you play people within your division. Now, is the reason why we don't do that just because we only have 8 people in our league, or do you kind of just like not having divisions, just in general?
I can't do it with eight teams. I mean, I have two divisions, so it'd be 4-4, which I like the three divisions actually with the 12 team league, but
Right.
nah, I'm not a division guy. We've had the I think I could prove it that we had so many exciting fourth place finishes because we always basically have a tie for fourth place, and makes the last week always very exciting. I mean, I've been in fifth place the last 2 years, just missing out, but I've been the last week of the regular season. I've always just been in it, which makes the league exciting.
Right, that makes sense. So last year, quite a bit changed. There was a lot of new faces in the league. So I think some of the scoring changed, and kind of just the overall feel of the league. And I feel like the direction of the league kind of just changed quite a bit last year. So what were some things that, well, I guess were surprising to you last year? What were some things that kind of stood out, and maybe what were some surprises last year, whether it had to do with your team or the draft or how some teams finished or anything that kind of happened between some of the participants of our league?
Um, Three of the surprises I had. One would be Nathan not winning the league. That's a total joke. If you have David Johnson and Antonio Brown and you don't win the league, I don't know what to tell you, especially in the PPR league.
Right.
That just literally means you didn't
Right.
check your
He
team.
drafted very well.
Yeah, and it was just frustrating. And I was like, well, this guy definitely should have actually borderline be undefeated. I'm not even kidding. This could have been potentially the best team we've ever seen in this league. And
Right. I mean, you're
we didn't
talking
get
about
anything.
having the top two, like the guys who very well might go 1 and 2 in the draft this year.
Yeah, David Johnson had 400 points.
And it's not like those guys came out of nowhere and became the 1 and 2 players. Those are guys. I know David Johnson slipped a little bit in ours, but those are guys who were still in the top 10, like pre-ranked last year.
Yeah, yeah, and the fact that he didn't even like make the playoffs was awful. And I was like, well, I just need teams to check their lineup. I mean, if you just literally just check this lineup and just make a couple odd and drops, that guy wins.
Right.
Easily.
It's very frustrating when there's someone in the league. I'm sure, especially as a commissioner, when there's someone in the league who's not really pulling their weight.
My second surprise was me where DeAndre or Dez didn't score like top points. All I knew was literally like one of them.
Right. I
And
guess your
they both
draft
sucked.
was a little bit disappointing.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. I mean, the Bortles one was my fault. I'll admit that one. You know, I did get Ryan.
That was a Bortles in the fourth rounds.
Yeah, I got Ryan and Breeze late, but which turned out well. But Bortles kind of killed me in the beginning of the season.
No, was Devontae Freeman your third round pick?
Yeah, I'm fine with that one.
Right.
I'm always a Freeman guy. Everyone knows that.
Mm-hmm.
But Hopkins round one and then Bryant were severely disappointing. Especially like DeAndre, I needed like 5 points from one study that game, and he just didn't get 5 points. And I was like, well, what? It doesn't make sense. I mean, you thought Osweiler would be better than Hoyer, but it didn't happen. It didn't make any sense because you had over 100 balls the year before.
Right. And you ended up with Todd Gurley at some point in the season, and on paper your team looked like it should be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the league.
Yeah, I should have been top 3, definitely.
So yeah, that was definitely something that was probably disappointing for you last year. And now, what was the third thing that you wanted to talk about as a surprise from last year?
That you or Jenko didn't make the finals.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
agree with that one.
everyone had a terrible week in the semis. I don't think anyone scored over like $150, which we just said that the average was like a 170, 180, and the fact that neither of you guys made the finals after being 11-3 each, I couldn't believe it.
Right. That was pretty disappointing for me, and I touched a little bit about that in my podcast. But yeah, that was definitely a disappointing season finish for me. And like I mentioned, I really thought I was going to be matching up with Jenko. So yeah, you're right. That was a surprise to me as well and a disappointment. Now to move on to a different topic, I have, I guess, just some questions for you. Just as a commissioner, you're obviously responsible for a lot. There's been a lot of hard decisions that you made over the course of the last, I guess, 10 years as commissioner, or
Yeah,
11 years as
we'll
commissioner,
call it 10.
10 years. So I guess my first question, and now I guess think about this maybe for a second or two, but if if it's not just one, or if you have a couple, what are some of the hardest decisions you've ever made as commissioner of this league?
Hmm. Not going to 10 teams. I got really pressured to put into 10 teams, but I didn't want to, and I know you didn't want to, and that kind of like canceled it out.
No, I that was something that I was against as well. I liked having our 8 people. I liked the idea of our league being kind of a closer knit group. I liked that our teams like could get a lot of good players on one team. So that's what personally I liked about keeping it as 8. And I don't know if you had anything.
Yeah, it would have been a huge. I thought about because I had 2 people ready for 10 team.
Right, and who were those two?
Oh God, I know one was Marwan, but I can't remember the last one because it was a little while ago.
Right.
But I know one was definitely Marwan, and I know they wanted to get someone else too. They were listing a couple names as well, but I wasn't for it, and I was comfortable with 8 teams. I already did 10 teams. I wanted to mix it up at the time, so that was hard because I almost did it. Defensive players, it's not a hard decision, but it's always up every year.
Mm-hmm.
So we always talk about it. Maybe it'll come back. It kind of just depends on the year. It's like keepers. It comes up every year. You kind of just mention it. Any tough decisions? Scoring's always a pain in the ass sometimes.
Right.
2 quarterbacks.
That seems like something that would be difficult to determine what's a good mix.
Yeah,
or good balance.
Yeah, that's like with the bonuses and stuff. Like, do I want to keep 2 quarterbacks? Because a lot of people weren't for it because it's weird.
Right.
But
right, that's the reason why Tony left, because he didn't want to do the 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, he
anymore.
literally just left because 2 quarterbacks. I don't know. It's not for everyone.
Right. And you make a good point. This league hasn't necessarily been for everyone over the course of the 10 years that we've been doing this. Now, we're going to dig a little bit deeper in this podcast, and I want to know who are some of the toughest people that you've had to deal with, or what are kind of some tough specifics that you've kind of had to deal with as you've been kind of in the role of dealing with the different egos that have been in this league and kind of been thrown at with different perspectives and different personalities in this league.
Well, not the toughest one, but the Bob and Nate slot has always been frustrating because I can't get one of them to check their freaking lineup every single week because they would have like a good team and then they wouldn't check their lineup consistently, and I was like, just look at the lineup, just like look at it, and nothing would happen, and that spot would never make the playoffs, which was like frustrating. And then the toughest one would be obviously Will and Dan because I would be like, guys, I text them before the draft. I'd be like, guys, look at the league. If you see anything, let me know. Like, yeah, sounds good. And they're like, no, everything looks fine. And like, let's just draft. I'm like, okay. And then at the end of the year, I'd be like, well, why didn't we do this? I'm like, well, you didn't mention it. And I just get a hard time it was just frustrating. I was like, well, I haven't seen you in like months, and then you're going to come out here and complain about this stuff when you could just simply just texted or call me. It wasn't worth it.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that's a decision that needed to be made, and you got it done. And I think that was really for the better of the league. And I don't think we would be where we are at this point with this league and doing all the things we're doing now if you hadn't made those changes to the league.
Oh, there's no chance. There's no chance that like an offline draft would never occur. Podcast would that would probably just be like a you and me thing, honestly.
Right.
With like maybe some of the other guys, whoever joined the league at the time, that'd be interested in it. But like it wouldn't be a whole league thing. It's just like a draft, and like yeah, obviously most leagues are just a draft, which is but like I feel like we all went to college with each other. It's a little close knit group, so
Mm.
like we kind of just turned this into like a thing we do. So that was my whole plan was just to have something that we can all like I don't know just chill on a Sunday and like just talk about our leagues and just watch the games. That's kind of like my idea what I
Right. I
wanted to
feel
do.
like the point of Judas' League and kind of its values over the years as like an 8-person league was always to be kind of a close group of friends that were really into it and talked about it. And it was that way for a while
Yeah, definitely.
until it became not that way anymore. And I feel like that's when it became time to start to having to make the tough decisions that you kind of had to make for the better of this league. And I think those decisions led to the point we're at now, where there's a whole lot of this is the most excitement I think there's ever been for a draft, and I think this might be one of the best years we've ever had in this league.
Right, because I got 8 people that all have the same reasons of being in the league, and it's nice. Like, I mean, Igo in most circumstances would still be in the league,
Right.
because I have nothing against him, and he's perfectly fine. I loved having him in the league, and he actually did really well. But like, I kind of felt bad if we're gonna do all this stuff that if he didn't really hang out, he didn't really know not everyone, and B like didn't really hang out with us that much. I was like, well, it's gonna be weird if he doesn't feel like hanging out with us, and like didn't check his lineup once in a while. That kind of frustrated me, and I was like, well, there's no point. I'm like, that's not what I, like. It's not about that. It's kind of like I don't think he would hang out with us like on a Sunday and do all this stuff where I see like every single person would in
And I
this league.
think you're right. And as we all know, Ago was the last person to no longer be in this league, and Alex House is the most current person added into this league. So just kind of a little bit once again back on the Igo departure. What was kind of that moment where you knew that? And I know you just kind of explained the reasons why, but what was the moment when you knew Igo wasn't going to be right for this league anymore, and Alex needed to be added into this league?
When we started talking about our draft day plans, I know Maine was mentioned. That was when it hit me. I was like, well, I still like Igo. He's still a good friend of mine, but he doesn't really talk to any. He doesn't talk besides you. He doesn't talk to anyone. Like
Right, and we've
anyone. Like
even
literally
lost
anyone.
some of our close, relations a little bit in the last year about anyways. So no, I think at the time I was a little bit hesitant myself of letting go of Igo, just because in a way it felt like it was kind of letting go of another aspect of our friendship and our relationship. But when I kind of took more of a backseat, and after it happened, when I was thinking about it a little bit more, it felt very right to have Alex into our league, and it was a fit that you know worked out perfectly. It was just like fit
Yeah.
just like a glove. It was perfect.
Well, I'm gonna see Nick and Alex more now than I will see Igo. That's kind of
Right.
basically
No, you're
pretty
right,
sure
and
about that.
I'm pretty satisfied with the way the league looks right now and the way the league is set up. And I think you made a lot of hard decisions that were the best decisions that needed to be made for the league.
Yeah. Instead of just delaying on it, kind of just did it.
Right. So I guess can you tell us a little bit about your role, kind of being the person who does have to make some of these hard decisions and kind of be in control or keep control rather of kind of these big egos and kind of different people wanting things to go their way, such as Josh kind of talking about the way he wants his rules to be done and wanting things to go his way, or and me feeling completely a different way than he does about some things, or Jenko wanting things to be done a different way. What is it like to kind of be the person, kind of the zookeeper, so to speak?
Shouts to Igo, by the way, that team name. Um, I think I might be the most neutral person in the league, and also I've been here with you. I've been here the longest,
Hmm.
so I've done it all. But like, just think about it. Like things, any event that happens, it's gonna be at my house. It's like kind of like everyone just meets up. Like my house is always like the place to meet.
Right.
So like I always felt like I was kind of neutral. So like I could always like talk to people and get each side and make a decision on that because I don't really have too many preferences. I don't mind listening to people, and I don't really have any strong views on stuff besides
Yeah.
the two quarterbacks.
And I
That's the
think
only
you're
strong
pretty
view I
for
have.
the people for the most part. And I don't think, besides possibly Dan and Will, I don't think anybody's had a problem with the way you've been leading the league for a good amount of time now. I don't think anybody overall has really any complaints. I think most people would say
No, just the three sodas.
you were doing a good job for the most part. And I know some of the people who are probably not in the league anymore might say otherwise. And I know Tony wasn't always satisfied with the rules. And obviously, right, the three Acetas weren't too satisfied with the rules. But I think the people now that we have are just more content with just what you do anyways, which I think the people that you have now are probably easier to manage. Would you say that is true?
Oh, that's 100% because I can talk to them anytime, whenever, and they won't like
I think the
argue
difference,
with me.
right, I think the difference here is that you and Dan and Will just haven't been good friends since like ninth grade. So it's difficult for you and I guess even for them to like smoothly communicate about how you want things to be in this league and just talk about this league like in a fun way and all that just because you guys hadn't really been that good of friends in a long time.
Yeah, they just wanted to make their own league, but let me be the commissioner. I was like, well, you can just make your own league at this point. I mean, I don't know what they do now,
Right.
but they probably just have their own league. I mean, they just wanted to do a bunch of stuff. I was like, well, I'm definitely not going to do that.
And now the difference between them talking and complaining about things that are wrong, and I guess like again, I'm just going to say Janko and Josh and myself kind of talking about things that we would like to change. The conversation is a lot smoother and a lot easier and just more comfortable for both parties because we're just closer friends and it's just kind of us more talking about how we want things to go
Well,
instead of like it's not really as much complaining about it.
the key is that we have the same reasons, the same motivations. That's the entire key about this. That they had different reasons and motivations. We might have different ideas, but we have the same motivations, which is the most important part of all of this. We want the same things in the league for the league, so that's why everything works.
Definitely. Now, we've touched on it a little bit already, and you talked about this with everyone else so far, and everyone knows this, but this year is going to be our first live draft. So, from the commissioner standpoint, and just from a participant and drafter standpoint, what are some concerns that you have maybe about this? Or what are some things that you're looking forward to about this and excited about? And looking forward to about the decision that you made here to go with a live draft?
Oh, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and I've never done it, so I can't tell you what I think it's gonna be like. But I know you have to be really creative to do this. You're gonna have to It's kind of like you got to. It's like taking an exam basically, because you have to bring your own stuff. You have to prepare your own way, because we're not give everyone. Not everyone's look at the same Yahoo rankings.
Right. This involves a lot of preparation.
Yeah, I mean, you make your own rankings. You decide your own strategy. Yeah, the players are picked, and you're kind of forced to make some decisions. But like any other draft, but you kind of set your own destiny, especially with two quarterbacks. 'Cause it changes the whole thing up how you want to do it, and it kind of the only concern I have is maybe in the early part might be a little confusion if someone's trying to make a trade. I can see that happening. It's probably gonna be 3.5 minutes for each pick, just to just be conservative. I want a low pressure, but I want to make sure things run smoothly. More importantly, and the other concern I have is anyone being lazy and doesn't put their name into Excel. I don't mind typing the names, but I want to see how it goes for that at least.
Now, I'm not sure if everyone's clear, and I think some people might still be wondering how the picks are going to be made. What's that going to look like? Are we
Okay, so I'm gonna put it on Excel and then attach it to my computer,
and
then
that's going to go up on the screen on the TV?
yeah. So I got basically a high 50-inch screen, so everyone's gonna be able to see it, and it's gonna be nice and bright. And then what we can do is at least You walk up and you make your pick. And at least in the case like Alex and Josh, you kind of just like announce your pick and then you make your pick and then you write both their names. You don't have to get up after each pick, like stuff like that.
Okay, so we're going to make the decision, say it out loud who we're going to draft, and then go up to the computer
That's kind of up to
and
you.
type it in. Now,
Um,
are we going to be typing into Excel for the entire draft?
yes,
So we're going to be getting up
I
and
need
walking
that.
over to the computer?
I need that to put it into Yahoo. I actually like it. Kind of like helping me out here
Okay.
because I need that so I can put it into Yahoo. That's
Right.
exactly what it is.
So how do we transfer our drafted teams over into
I have to
Yahoo?
do that. I think I have to go
Do you
into.
just kind of hand
I
pick
kind
the
of.
players
It's a
and
little
put them into
tedious.
their team? Okay.
It's a little tedious, but I have to do it.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure how that was going to look. I guess some more questions about draft day. I know some of the biggest topics have been the draft start time and how much time we're going to allow for picks. So we'll talk first about draft start time. Now, I know Josh and a couple others were pulling more for a later start time, like a 6 or a 7, possibly even an 8. And I know people, at least like myself and Brian, were looking more towards something closer to the 2:30, 3 o'clock, 3:30 start time. Have there been any decisions that you've made since the last time some people might have heard about this? And can you talk a little bit about
Yeah. So the draft time is gonna be like 3.5 minutes. That's
the
basically.
draft start time?
Yeah.
Sorry, what time we will be starting the
Oh yeah, I'll
draft?
get it. So basically, the start time is gonna be like 3:30,
Okay.
and it just so happens that the draft clock will also be like 3 minutes to 3:30 as well.
Sorry.
Um,
Okay, so it's definitely going to be somewhere between 3 and 3.5 minutes.
yes, I can almost guarantee that. The very lowest I'll go is 2:45, but it's gonna be somewhere in that area that will probably vote on the day where everyone's together and
And
we
can
can
you
talk
tell
about
us
it.
why that's the best reason to have that amount of time for each pick? Because
Uh,
I know that there was a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of controversy, and I know some people are arguing for less time, some people are arguing for more time. So,
the draft would drag if it was much longer. I mean, even 3 minutes is pretty long, but I just want to be conservative for making the picks and like going up and down and all that stuff. I mean,
fair
we,
enough.
we control the clock, so if we feel like during the middle of the draft that we can lower it,
Right,
I
and
have no
that's a
problem
good
with
point.
that.
That's the thing about the
We
live
control
draft.
it.
Right, and I feel like yeah, if we're really no one's using those 3 minutes, and it's picks most picks are getting done in like a minute and a half, then I think everyone would be okay if we were just like, all right, let's cut down the time a little bit.
Yeah, that should be fine.
And I
And
think there's less pressure because you're not going to have someone automatically picked. I think if you got down to the very end of time, you're just kind of forced to make a pick.
yeah,
But like the computer's not just going to put someone on the board for you.
nope, which is nice. And then the draft will probably start around from 3:30. That's basically almost a definite.
All right. So you guys all heard that here. Another one of the big things that were talked about was the money and the money distribution for this league, as far as how much the champion's going to get, how much second place is going to get. And I know now this became something that was more up in the air, was giving money to the person with the most points. So what are your thoughts today on money and money distribution?
So I'm pretty mixed on it. So the day of the draft is gonna be there's gonna be a vote. Um, so it's either gonna be 150 for first and 50 for second, which because there's a $200. Oh well, there could be more. No. That's $25. So yeah, 25 times 8 is 200. So 150 for winner. Second place gets 50, something like that. And or if we do most points, it could be like 130 for first, 40 for second, and then like 30 for most points, something like that. But I have a feeling, I don't know why, that the first option is gonna win out.
So, are you leaning towards giving money to the person with the most points?
I'm usually an advocate for that, but you guys made a good point. I don't know. I might just do first and second. That fits me personally, but we're gonna vote on it.
No, what is your argument towards giving money to the person with the most points? What do you like about that?
Oh, so the season's 14 weeks. So if you basically have the best team for 14 weeks. I know it's regular season and all that stuff,
Right.
but you gotta understand, fantasy football is not like real sports. It's not like you can have one really bad week, but you can have one bad week and then be good 15 weeks. And if your bad week happens to be in the playoffs, you're done. I mean, if someone has a bad week during week 3, it's not gonna matter if you just have one bad week. It's not like real sports where you know your team's good or bad. No, if someone get hurt, someone's gonna step up. It doesn't work like that in fantasy.
I feel like the person with the most points, more often than not, or should be the person who comes in first or second, anyways.
Yeah, because at that point, it's not really luck. You kind of just have a really good team.
Right. So at that point,
Except
they
for,
now get the bonus money and the first or second place money, and I feel like the distribution on that might not be so fair between first
Yeah.
and second place.
that's like the counter argument I've had, and that's what's making me change basically.
Yeah, and that's kind of the stance that I'm on, is that I feel like the most points, most likely or in most cases, is the person who's coming in first or second place. So now they're just getting kind of an uneven amount of money versus the person who comes in second. So I don't know. That it just makes more sense to me to kind of just make it first place gets however much, like 130 or however much we talked about, and then it was basically having second place double the amount of money that they had paid for in the league.
Yeah, so that's why I have 150 and 50. So that's what we're looking at right now.
Right. Now, I guess one of the more hot topics lately in fantasy football has been Ezekiel Elliott's draft stock, and is the suspension final on 6 games?
No, so there's going to be an appeal. So he appealed it today, and there's a hearing August 29th. So I think the way the process goes is that you might hear it before the season.
So we won't know for sure before the draft what his.
So my opinion on this is the suspension will stay, but I don't know if it's gonna be for this season. Or I don't think it might be for this season. So it might be pushed to next season.
On the day of the draft, we won't know what the status of Elliott's suspension is going to be yet.
There's a very likely chance we won't.
Now, how do you think that will affect? Because he was supposed to be someone who was probably a top 5, 6.
He should go. So this is a team preference. So anywhere between late third, early fourth, and early seventh, my opinion. I know it's half the year, but if you think about it, I missed on Blake Bortles. People miss on 4th round picks all the time, or third round pick. I missed on Blake Bortles, and I basically had a good season, except I missed out by 50 points for the playoffs.
Right.
Missing a pick that high.
Mm-hmm.
Someone like me probably won't take him. I'll even throw that out there because I'm missing a 4th this year. So I kind of need the depth first.
That's a good point.
So you might not see, unless he really falls, you probably won't see me taking him. But just because of the risk, I can't take that risk.
Right. I mean, I wouldn't get him, obviously not in the first round. I don't think in the second round. And I'm not sure if I'm even willing to give a third round if indeed it's going to be 6 games or plus.
Yeah, I don't see him slipping past 6 or 7. He shouldn't either.
So now, last year, I took Brady in the second round with a 4-game suspension, and I would do that again.
Yeah. Quarterbacks are easy to replace, though. Running back ones are the hardest commodity to come by.
Right.
So, I mean, if you really don't think running back, you know what, you shouldn't hold your running back to the side because you could always find a quarterback.
Yeah, no, that's a good
in the
point.
later rounds because Matt Ryan, Winston, and Mario win the 14th round. You could find them. I mean,
No, you're right. They're right. They're available.
once the 4th or 5th round goes, running backs are really hard to find. So
That's a good point. It gets very thin, and it's not always the easiest thing to pick up on the free agent wire either.
no, not at all.
All right, so moving on to, I guess, our last topic of this episode is, Mike, what you think about what the future of Judice's League might hold. Do you think that some of the participants that we have are going to be sticking around for a while? Or what is the future of Judice's League 12 or even 11 and just on look like? Or what are some of
So
your goals, I guess?
at least the next few years, this league will be consistent. I'm fully convinced of that. Um, we just like I said, we have 8 people that have the same motivations in this league, and it's gonna be a really good league. And everyone seems to get along with each other. Fine. I mean, we hang out. Everyone hangs out with each other in the league, so that's nice. It's like it's unique. Everyone's gonna be checking their teams. We have a group chat that'll probably be starting up soon.
Will
It's
this will this continue to be a live draft for the years going forward?
I doubt it, and the reason I say I doubt it is I have a very rare case this year where I'm able to get everyone together. Now, I'm gonna have to plan if I want to continue this. I'm gonna have to plan it out months in ahead, like I already have, which I guess can be done. But something always usually comes up. So if this live draft does go well, I will try to keep it like this because I don't know, it's something different, unique. But I have no problem keeping it on the computer and just have whoever is around just come to my house like usual, which I've
Right.
been doing for years
And
and
that always
years.
worked out very successfully. Now,
And
Mike, final thought, and I know you like to do your bold predictions, so this is going to be based off of the last question. What is a bold prediction that you have, and you can think about this, a bold prediction for the future of Judice's League?
you know what we haven't had in all the years I've been doing this? We haven't had a back-to-back champion.
That's true.
Um,
That's a good point.
I think within the next 4 years, I would say, someone wins the championship twice. I think someone's gonna have a small run. I don't know who. It kind of just it's stupid, impossible to say. That's just me throwing a name out. But I feel like someone is gonna have a back-to-back championship, or at least 2 out of 3. I would go with that. And not to mention, I kind of went off the side. I just want to mention that these podcasts have really been useful. I would say. I mean, people have been getting some good pointers for the league, so they're more introduced. And another thing with the future of the league, I wanted to just mention is that I would like to continue these throughout the week. So maybe have like once a week that have like 20 or 30 minutes just talking about like a recap and like of the week and like a future of the week.
Yeah, no, I think that would be really awesome, and that's something I'm interested in doing, and I really hope that the podcasting is something that continues. So that was a little bit into the life of Commissioner Mike Judice. There will be a part 2 to this podcast where fellow member Nick Salvatore will be joining us. So thank you, everybody, for listening.